Welcome to Our Girl Relationships. We talk about the problems people face in their day to day lives. Let's start with the video. So, I've been thinking for a few days now about how I reacted when my wife put me on the spot. Now, not to say that she didn't deserve the ripping she got from my mother in law, but I've been feeling bad about the whole situation in retrospect. That's why I decided to share the incident in this subreddit and ask you people whether AITA or not for not standing up for her and just enjoying the show. About 8 days ago, my wife told me that she was planning a small family dinner on the weekend. It was a bit of a surprise because generally my wife doesn't like mixing with my family. It's because her relationship with her in laws isn't that great. I can't blame her since even I have to struggle sometimes just to have a decent conversation with my parents that doesn't involve them reminding me of my responsibilities, how I'm a disappointment because I, being an Asian, married a Christian woman, or something about me not coming home that often. I don't usually mind since they are my parents and at the end of the day they are family, but my wife has no qualms about showing how she dislikes being around them or listening to their nagging. In fact, if it wasn't for the fact that my wife had a very successful career, I don't think my parents would have gotten along with her at all. For them, a person's worth is defined by how well paying their job is. Nonetheless, knowing all these things, I did think that if my wife wanted to have a family dinner, she might have some ulterior motives, but I didn't question it. Who am I to stop her from willingly hanging out with my family? That weekend, my parents came down to our house. It was all going great, and my parents were having a good time playing around with our son. All day, I was a little worried about what my wife was planning, and I was on my guard, but by the time it was nighttime, I relaxed a little since it looked like everyone was just enjoying themselves without any other thought. My wife announced that it was time for dinner, and my son ran to the dining table, followed by my parents, then me. I must say, my wife outdid herself this time. It was like she purposefully made everyone's favorite dishes and was determined that everyone should be happy that day. We all sat down to eat. After we were done, my wife brought in the cheesecake she made for dessert and said that before we dig in, she had something to announce. I instantly sat upright and went on alert because finally I was going to find out the real reason she organized this impromptu family dinner. When she was sure she had everyone's attention, my wife announced that she got a promotion at work. That was happy news, and I started to relax a little. We all congratulated her, and I offered to run and grab champagne to celebrate, but she told me that there's more she needs to tell us. She continued by saying that she is taking the promotion, but she'll have to move to Germany for about 4 years to head over a sub branch of their company. She said that she had to leave in a month. Then she asked me if I'll be willing to let my son go with her because there is no way she can live 4 years without him, and her job is also very important. She specifically said the words, whether I'll support my wife in her decision to reach new heights in her successful career. Now, I knew this was a trap. I figured out that the dinner was a sham, so she can spring this on me in front of my family because to them, it's very important that families support each other, and the person that brings in more money has a higher say in any decision of the household. But how can I agree with her rash announcement? She's practically asking me to either live without my son or quit my job and move with her. And her announcing this in front of my parents is like a declaration that there is no room for negotiation. I just smiled at her in hopes to not give a sure answer. But before she could coax me out for a firm reply, my mom jumped into the conversation. Her mother in law practically ripped her off right there at the dinner table. She said that how can my wife even think of taking a promotion with such ridiculous demands without even talking with her family first? She said that it's important for women to move up in this world, but that doesn't mean that she, as a mother and as a wife, is allowed to forget that her every decision comes with terms and conditions. She told her off for being an inconsiderate mother who didn't even think for a second about how moving across the Pacific Ocean in a completely different country would affect her son. How would a child who had lived all his life in the States and is still in middle school would fit in a foreign country and make new friends when he doesn't even know the local language? She called her out for being selfish and only thinking about herself and not considering how her decision will affect her family. She told her that it's a good thing that she's capable of supporting the family on her own, but how can she think that her husband as a man would be okay egotistically with quitting his job and living the life of a house husband in a strange place? My wife was caught off guard at this sudden burst of anger from her mother-in-law because this was the first time my mom had ever publicly raised her voice with her. Hell, even I was surprised that my mom was against her decision, considering the values my parents uphold above all else. Before things could escalate any further, my father interrupted and told us that it was time for them to go back home. He took Mom away, and we were left alone. I took my son to bed, and since then, neither me nor my wife has mentioned that dinner. We both have been avoiding the conversation that is inevitable. I'm actually avoiding it because I saw my wife crying that night, and even though she deserved what she got, I can't help but feel a little sad and didn't want to upset her anymore. Now, AITA here for not sticking up for her in that situation? Or is she the a-hole who had it coming after the stunt she pulled? Should I really feel sympathy for her right now? Many people here have sent me PM asking about how things went between me and my wife after I shared my original post. I thought it would be better to leave an update here instead of answering every single person separately. So, a few days after the incident, I had no choice but to bring up the topic of that night with my wife. The conversation was inevitable, and it had already been a week. I remembered my wife telling me she had only a month before she had to move, so there was no point in dilly-dallying anymore. I told her we needed to talk, and she figured what it was going to be about. Before I could even utter a word, she said that she was not going to give up on the promotion, so if I was planning on asking her to withdraw, there's no point. I shut my mouth because that was one of the things I was thinking, but not the very first option I thought of. I told her to calm her horses and just listen to me. I told her that if she really is going forward with the promotion, then it's fine by me, but there is no way I'm going to move to another country with her. Neither do I think it's a good idea for our son to move to Germany for 4 years in the middle of the school year. I told her she needs to talk to her head and ask if she can work from here. If she can't come to compromise at her workplace, then we'll think of something else. But right then, I wasn't ready to just uproot either my life or my child's life just for her career. My wife told me that she'll try talking to her boss, but I should not get my hopes up. Regardless, she promised to try her best. Now I'm waiting for her to have the talk at her office, and once we come to a conclusion, I'll update again. After weeks of going back and forth, my wife and I finally came to a conclusion with the problem I mentioned in my original post, and as promised, I'm leaving the update here. As she promised me, my wife did talk to her boss whether she can take the promotion and work from here and compromise a little by going to Germany every other month or so to check up on the affairs instead of permanently moving there. But as expected, she only got a disappointing reply back. Her boss told her that because the sub-branch is newly established, they need someone who can take a hands-on approach in working out the initial affairs to make sure it doesn't go into losses even before it's fully operational. Because the compromise wasn't an option and my wife wasn't going to give up on the promotion she had been waiting for a long time, we fought a lot. She was adamant that our son go with her and that a foreign education would only benefit him. But I made it very clear that he wouldn't change his life just for her sake. I don't want him to be uncomfortable for months before settling in a new country, and by the time he would have found a place for himself, it'll be time to move back home. She also asked me if I can quit my job or maybe work from home since I work in the IT sector, but I told her there is no way I'm quitting my career just so she can live out hers. That's how it went for about 2 weeks before we had to face reality and accept that it wasn't going to work out between us if none of us were going to compromise. So she said that she will move out next month and work in Germany for 6 months and see how things are going. Then she'll try coming back and ask again for a distance working environment. She left 2 days ago, and we've only talked a few times since then. So far, it's not so hard to manage things around. We've been adjusting to this changed lifestyle, and hopefully in the next 6 months, luck would be on our side and she can come back. Until then, I plan to take a lot of vacation and fly out every month for 2 months. EAH. I think everyone here has made something that could have been sorted out easily into a huge deal. The mother-in-law, who had the option of passing down her wisdom, chose to humiliate the wife. The OP, who should have talked it out and supported his wife, remained silent, and the wife, in on herself, was using childish tactics to get what she wants. NTA, I think if your wife is using your parents as a shield just to get what she wants, then there was no need for you to defend her. She had it coming, and you should not feel guilty about it. My wife divorced her now ex-husband a few years ago and pays child support. She gave her rights to the kids. She pays about $600. I just found out she sometimes forgets. I'm not a lawyer, but 3 kids plus the income at the time they divorced should be around $2,000 just by articles, but this was up to the court. I am very wealthy and make a really generous amount of income. My wife was complaining that he kept calling her. I asked why, and then it unfolded. I told her to just give him the money. My wife works a good job, again, with generous money. She said that it's her business and she doesn't want the kids and this money could go to her and I should stay out of it because I know nothing about it. I looked at some papers and they live in a small apartment on the bad side of town. Hit close to home. I grew up with a single mom and 4 brothers sharing a room. My mom struggled a lot for us. She's a wonderful woman who broke her back for all 4 of us. Every decision was about the kids. I tried to please or compromise with my wife. I tried to tell her I'll pay for it. Also tried seeing about this being a legal issue. I brought this up for 3 weeks straight and I got no answer. No compromise, no negotiation, just her saying it's her money and she needs it for herself. I found the guy's number through some files. I messaged him and he was quite surprised to hear from me. After some back and forth, I got to the point and we met up at a coffee shop. Everything in his house is going up, rent and shit like that. He had to find a new job that doesn't pay as much as before, and before didn't even pay much. He is struggling to buy enough groceries for the week for all the kids, much less himself. The kids are growing out of clothes and he cannot afford new clothes right now. Gas is going up tremendously and he is clearly struggling. He has 3 girls, none of them have phones. They all share 1 bedroom. He can't afford activities of anything. You could just tell he was struggling. I'm not a crier, but I teared up at this. He said that he wasn't able to give his kids what they deserved, and he's ashamed of that. After this, I offered the money he needed for the kids. After him saying the classic, I can't accept that, I went with what I read in the articles. 2,000 may seem like a lot, but trust, it's not making a dent in my bank account. I wrote a check. He started bawling. That was enough to make me tear up even more. I just thought this was the help my mom needed for all of us back then and opened up a lot of past feelings. I had zero intention of hiding this. I was upfront and told my wife exactly what I did. And a hotel tab later, I presume I might have messed up. She didn't want to spend her money, so I spent mine. I just can't get my mind off the fact that these kids deserve more and this money can help, that I maybe selfishly don't feel like I did anything wrong. But the amount of messages I'm getting says otherwise. NTA, but wow, your wife is a massive AH. Why are you with someone so selfish? She's willing to let her own children potentially starve and go without clothes because she deserves the money more? That is so cold. NTA, although in this situation I would have perhaps persuaded and helped her ex get the child support enforced through legal measures. NTA, your wife is tough. She forgets to pay her child support? That is the bare minimum she could do, given that she abandoned her children and let them live in poverty, while she should be paying almost 3 times what she does now. You are a good man and you deserve better. Keep helping out those kids and encourage the ex to get the kids the child support they are entitled to. I'm a 31-year-old female, have a wonderful 7-year-old daughter I would go to the moon and back for, and have been supporting her as a single parent. My ex, 31, male, hasn't really been in her life since we split when she was 2.5. He hasn't paid child support for the last 4 years and has sporadically visited her at his parents' home when she visits. He says he will visit her while hyping her up and then not showing up, only to give BS excuses on why he never showed up, leaving her devastated and upset that he didn't spend time with her. He has blamed me for everything under the sun, which I can prove to not be true. For example, he blames me for not calling him so he can video chat with her on my days off when he doesn't even attempt to try in the first place on his days off. He even stated he couldn't pay child support because he was rebuilding his car. My ex had seen multiple girls in the past 4 years, but has been seeing his current girlfriend for about a year at this point, and she has a 3-year-old daughter. He shunted our daughter to be his girlfriend's daughter's father, doing father-daughter activities, like going to the pumpkin patch, holidays, and spending time with the 3-year-old. He forgot his own daughter's birthday for 2 years in a row, and possibly for a third time this year. His family and I heard a rumor that the girlfriend was pregnant 3 to 4 months ago. His parents wanted to be in the baby's life, and I was ecstatic that my daughter would have half-sibling since I don't want more kids. He vehemently denied she was pregnant, and we left the subject alone. Well, about 10 minutes before I started my shift, I was told and shown that my ex's girlfriend had their baby girl that morning. I was livid. He had lied to all of us that the baby was coming and severed whatever trust with him we had left. I started looking at family attorneys in my city because I know this will get messy. He wants parental rights without having to lift a finger or pay child support. I want full custody since our daughter lives with me full time. Before people ask, no, he's not in our daughter's life unless he wants others to see he's being a good dad. The last time he visited her, she didn't recognize him at all. Yes, I have filed for child support several times in the past, only for them to die in court because he didn't want to sign the paperwork. I'm at my wit's end with him. I vented to a couple of close friends and close coworkers about this, and the majority are saying ITA because I should be excited for the new baby and that with the new baby he won't have the funds for child support. AITA if I go through with getting a family attorney and serving him papers while he's caring for a newborn. NTA, I'm surprised you haven't already served him papers. NTA, but you should have done this from the very beginning. You need to retain an attorney now, and you need to remove yourself emotionally from him. His girlfriends, kids, whatever, are none of your business. Your only focus needs to be on what's right for your daughter, or you're trapping yourself emotionally in a relationship with him when it literally doesn't exist. NTA, what does this have to do with him having another child? He is a deadbeat. I have never heard of custody and child support not going through just because the father won't sign papers.